What's going on, guys? It's Chev, and we're back here on some more Black Ops Cold War. And who knew we'd be back so soon? Obviously, not staying on here, just kind of revisiting, just seeing the game, seeing how it feels, seeing how just everything is on this game. So this game was a little bit weird overall throughout the year, but to be honest, I enjoyed this game. I really did. A lot of people didn't really like it because it wasn't the same as Modern Warfare in terms of like the slide canceling feeling and like the tac sprint and all that other stuff not being in this game. Like, you can slide cancel on here or whatever. They did make it a little bit, you know, closer to it, but it was definitely off, you know what I mean? I had this idea that if the game just felt like Modern Warfare and they did anything with that model, people would just want to play it more than this, and now we're seeing that apparently that may not be the case with the way that people are talking shit about Vanguard or whatever. A lot of people have been asking me, like, do I like this game more or Vanguard? And I mean, overall, looking at it, like, content-wise, I think Cold War is obviously a better game than Vanguard. The zombies mode alone, the comparison between the two, is so massive and so different in quality from each other. Now, whether that's fair to the developers or not, sorry. You know, some of them had a lot more time to work on things and whatever, and there were different ideas and stuff at the time. I kind of learned zombies on that, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't really play zombies that much before Cold War came out, and Cold War was a lot more accessible and a lot more easy to understand for a newer zombies player like me, which I believe that was their intent. They want to make it as accessible as possible. Just based on zombies alone, this game is absolutely better than Vanguard. Overall, though, I mean, the setting, I'd say that this game is a little less depressing than Vanguard is. Vanguard is definitely kind of, it's World War II, you know what I mean? Shit's boring as fuck. We've seen it a million times. Everything is ever. I mean, Caldera, I think overall is definitely a beautiful map. The colors are great. Kind of a Vanguard asset or whatever, but in terms of like the maps and other things like that, The one thing I will say that Vanguard multiplayer has over Cold War multiplayer, though, for sure, is the combat pacing thing. I would love to have combat pacing on every single future version of Call of Duty from this point forward. I feel like it's just necessary. I mean, who knows what Microsoft is actually going to even do with all of this, but that lobby's sweaty as shit. Why is my SBMM up on this game? I haven't played. I'm just trying to chill. I don't give a fuck about doing anything on this game. Overall, I think Cold War is definitely a more complete game than Vanguard is, but this is me looking at this game in its completed form now. I remember what people were saying when Cold War initially came out. I remember all of you. Now, I've said my fair share of criticisms and stuff like that, but I stand by this. Cold War and Vanguard, at the end of both of their life cycles, are better games than Modern Warfare. Design-wise, maps, yeah, basically everything. I'll literally spend the whole video backing out, getting like a couple kills, and I'm done for the day, because I'm gonna watch the UFC tonight. Oh, and play all football. Shit, I got plenty of things I can do today. I forgot today was Saturday. Although Modern Warfare did really revitalize, you know, Call of Duty in general, sure, yeah, it did that for us, but ultimately, I'm gonna be honest, I'd rather be less than have experienced that game, because now I am less. I love COD 4, love Modern Warfare 2, love Modern Warfare 3. Modern Warfare 2019 can eat my ass. That game taught people how to play Call of Duty in the worst, most disrespectful, unengaging ways possible, and then caress them. I'll never forgive it. The community was better before the game came out. Everything. I spent the entire year on this game saying that the sniper rifles were literally the slowest in Call of Duty history. Still stand by that. That is true. They literally are. With everybody, like, getting rid of the sniper rifles in the CDL for Cold War and all that shit. It's crazy, because yesterday, they had their first game over on Vanguard in the CDL with people actually using sniper rifles. Look how fun that was, huh? Could you imagine how much cooler all of these games where we just weren't sniping and shit in it? Vanguard sniping is also slow as shit and just doesn't look very good because of it. They keep trying to buff it and stuff, but apparently those buffs are literally actually kind of breaking them, so that's kind of weird. You can have bigger maps, but that doesn't make it a good sniping map. It can be cluttered. It can have multiple buildings and stuff where people will never have to expose themselves to getting shot by that. Wasn't so bad. Look at that. So the UFC card tonight, we got Francis Ngannou versus Ciryl Gane. The best play actually worked on this game. Wait, I'm surprised. There's basically only 2 fights on here that people even really know or understand. So it's Francis Ngannou versus Ciryl Gane, and then Brandon Moreno versus Davison Figueiredo 3. I think Brandon Moreno overall is technically better than Figueiredo, but that second fight, Brandon just basically ran him over because Figgy was trying to just like be more technical, take his time with it or whatever, but that's not what he needs to do. He can't match him on that technical level. He has to basically, in the first couple rounds, just do enough damage to be able to shorten that gap of technicality. If you do enough damage to his legs, enough damage to his overall body, cardio and things like that, make him work, make him worry, make him constantly think and exhaust himself in any way you possibly can, because Brandon is obviously a cerebral fighter. It's exhausting. If Figgy wants to win this fight, he has to go out there just like that first fight and just bang. He can get hurt. He obviously, I mean, there's risk with that, but not gonna win standing on the outside trying to just outstrike him. It's not gonna happen. His jab isn't gonna do the same thing. It's just his power is his advantage. He needs to use it. I got Moreno winning in this third one. I just don't think Figueiredo has evolved or changed anything enough. I don't think he's improved enough. I think in that first fight, even though it was a tie and in the second fight he got dominated, that first fight, Figueiredo technically won that fight if he didn't get a point deduction for that low blow that he did. It was a tie because of the point deduction. So the first fight I give to Figueiredo. It was a great fight overall, not taking anything away from Moreno, but they did take a point from Figueiredo. So I got Moreno winning this third one. If Figueiredo shuts him off, though, actually finishes him, that would be insane. I'd love to think of a guy down at flyweight just knocking people the fuck out. The way that he just destroyed Joseph Benavidez was disturbing, to be honest. Most violent flyweight finishes I have ever seen. I just think Brandon is better. And then we got Francis Ngannou, literally one punch man, against Ciryl Gane, the most technical, the best heavyweight we have ever seen in terms of skill. Francis Ngannou, obviously this is just that whole typical matchup of power versus like skill kind of thing, like kind of like a Fury Wilder, but I think this fight is a little bit different, and because it's MMA, it's a lot different. Like for whatever reason, it's crazy that people think that boxers can actually fight MMA fighters. It's so fun. All I'm gonna say is you go and put an MMA fighter and a boxer on the fucking street, and they start fighting with each other, but nobody is able to just managing to like find weapons or whatever, that boxer is doomed. It is what it is. I don't know what the fuck is up with people and their brains and shit. I'm pulling for Ciryl Gane to actually win this fight. I've been watching Ciryl, all of his fights since he even debuted in the UFC and shit, and I saw immediately how different he was from the other heavyweights. There's nobody that does anything like him. He hasn't had a very, very long track record. Like we haven't seen him gone against a specific grappler. Someone whose true goal is to only put him on his back and not even try to strike with him or knock him out or whatever. He has yet to run into that. Curtis Blaydes could have been a unique matchup, but that's not what this matchup is, because Curtis Blaydes has been laid out multiple times by power punchers, but for whatever reason, people think Ciryl Gane just doesn't have power or something. You did see the Derek Lewis finish, right? Only two ways that this fight is gonna go. A, Ciryl Gane, which I think is the more likely thing. I think Ciryl Gane is literally just gonna poke and prod at Ngannou as Ngannou literally swings at air, trying to decapitate him, and he will be swinging so fucking hard that the air around Ciryl Gane might do a little bit of damage to him, but he'll be there. He'll piece him up, Francis will get tired, and eventually, I'd say third, fourth round, something like that, is most likely to kind of keel over and just kind of take a TKO. That's how I see it. That's how it happened with Derek Lewis. I see a similar thing happening with Francis. Now, Francis is a different type of striker than Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis and Francis have their different attributes as power punchers and the way that they lure people in. And now, obviously, I'm not a fighter or whatever, but people like to hear some of my breakdowns on the shit. So, in terms of my actual fighting experience, I literally got a blue belt, up to blue belt, under Ricardo Almeida, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That is the most fighting experience I have, okay? I think both of them should definitely throw leg kicks. The way, if you're gonna have to actually stand with Ciryl Gane, have to deal with his footwork and his movement and his overall speed and how nice his jabs are and just his overall speed, precision, and just the looks that he gives people. He feints, he does all this stuff that just heavyweights are just not used to. Heavyweights bite on a whole lot of things. Francis is one of them. Francis Ngannou ends up biting on a shit ton of things. He reacts to everything. So if Ciryl is giving him all these different looks, he's not going to really know exactly where to block and stuff like that. It's going to be difficult for him to defend a lot of things that are going to come his way. Kicks, elbows, punches, clinching. I think clinching is going to be a really important thing in this fight. I think people are really overlooking how strong Ciryl is actually, like, in the clinch. Also, people were talking about the improved grappling from Francis, and while that's true, Stipe Miocic tried to take down a man that was literally 40 pounds heavier than him. I would like to make the argument that Ciryl Gane is physically stronger than Stipe Miocic. He might not be a better wrestler, but I feel like grappling and physicality-wise, I feel like that grappling, like, exchange between Stipe and Ngannou was more due to strength than anything. It was good takedown defense, but he reversed it through literally pure strength. Yanked him to the ground, sprawled around him, and punched him until he had to get up in a panic. I wouldn't say that there was any kind of actual offensive wrestling really happening at that point. Although, I think if Francis actually tries to grapple, it might work. I think Francis needs to throw some leg kicks out there. Otherwise, he's literally going to be hitting air all night. Now, same thing for Ciryl, though. He needs to chop Ngannou's legs up, make it so basically he's even slower and even more predictable and limit his odds even more and dance around him until he gives up. He's got a whole lot of muscle. He's a big guy. The weight limit for heavyweight is 265 pounds. Lowest weight that you could be as a heavyweight is like 207 or something. But people very rarely ever come that close. Like, no one weighs in at like 220. It's usually just not a good idea. Stipe came in against Francis Ngannou, who on fight night is probably weighing like 270 pounds, okay? 265 is the weight limit when they come to weigh in, but then they rehydrate and can eat and be bigger on actual fight night the next day. You'd be surprised how much weight people will gain back up overnight. I'd say that Francis Ngannou is probably like 270 plus on his fight nights. Cyril came weighing in at 247 pounds. He usually weighs in at the high 240s. But one thing that's interesting about Francis, who usually comes in like 263, 264, 265, he actually weighed in at 257. A little bit lighter. I don't know how much of a difference that weight actually makes at this point. I can't tell if it's a good or a bad sign in terms of his weight cut. I don't know if he's feeling a little bit better at that weight. You know, will it help with his cardio being a little bit lighter? Was it something go wrong? Was he sick or something? You know what I mean? Like, was he trying to be a little bit lighter, or does it not even matter? The idea, though, if you think about it, if you have Calm Francis, the one that beats Stipe, that just kind of wants to sit on the outside and just scare people with his power and just make them fear, 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 fear. I just don't know if that will work for Francis. I feel like he's just gonna end up falling behind naturally because he's gonna have to throw less or he's gonna get tired faster. And I can't see him throwing like 20% little jabs out there. I just don't see Francis doing that. I just don't. Because even if he is, I don't think Cyril's in his range. I just don't. So it's gonna go one of two ways. Cyril is just gonna absolutely just masterclass make Francis just look embarrassingly bad, like he did to Derek Lewis in Houston. Or Francis, likely within the first 2 rounds, is just gonna shut Cyril off, and literally none of that matters. All that fancy shit that you're good at, all that dancing around, moving and all that shit, all that skill, doesn't matter if I literally send your head to your anus. Not your actual ass, I mean like to the planet. I'm picking Cyril Gane though. I think Cyril is just better. I think he's just smarter. And, although I highly doubt that this will be a highly contested fight for 5 rounds. It's gonna be one-sided. Cold War is better than Modern Warfare 2019 and Vanguard. Vanguard at the moment.